And Boomer joins us this morning on the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Boomer.
Yeah, what's up, guys? How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, now that all the playoffs are all settled and everything else, and I guess this is going to be our last call in this year, and I have to say I enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed your time in the national spotlight last week.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I feel like you went viral. I don't know if you wanted to or not.
No, that's why I gave it to you guys. It's always good to stay relevant, and I had to make the distinction between what I said about Mac Jones and what I believe about Mac Jones as a person and as a player. I think he's a really good player. I think he's a really good person, but his actions, in between plays and on the sideline and things of that nature needed to be refined. And actually, yesterday I thought he was fine yesterday, and there were times for him to easily be frustrated in the middle of that game.
Well, I think next season we're going to do Boomer's Douche of the Week. Is that all right with you if we do that?
If you can get a sponsor, yeah, of course.
And split the money.
Yes, okay. Yeah, of course, I would always split the money. 90-10.
Yeah, you were leaning toward, you started to talk about it at halftime, and obviously it's the network, so they weren't going to go in that direction. But what did you see from Mac yesterday? I felt like you maybe got to see a glimpse of what he could be if the offense were clicking. I
agree. I thought yesterday he probably played about as well as he could play given the conditions and the circumstances that they were playing under. Of course, you don't like to see 3 interceptions and turnovers, and those are things that he'll have to work on. But, I felt like he was more aggressive yesterday. I felt like he was more in charge yesterday. I didn't see all those gyrations in the middle of plays and after plays and things of that nature. I know that he's frustrated, and I know that they have been frustrated on offense, but look, he's going into his 3rd year. That's usually when this thing's going to kick in, whether or not he's going to be the leader long-term for a team. I thought there were games this year where he really looked like he, knew what exactly he was doing and was totally in charge. I do know that there was some friction between he and the coaching staff. That's just natural, especially when, you lose a guy like Josh McDaniels, who was so good to you and for you your rookie year. So I don't know what Bill's going to do with the offensive staff. I don't know if he's going to change. I don't know if he's going to bring Bill O'Brien back. I don't know. But I do know that I think that they believe that they have their quarterback, at least for next year and the foreseeable future.
What would you do to fix it next season?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they have good players. I mean, that's the thing. It's a good team. I mean, I know that they finished below 500, and I know yesterday it was disappointing that they were unable to get into the playoffs for 2 years in a row. I mean, they're not that far off, and the fact that Matt got hurt early in the year, I think, also hurt him this year and hurt whatever growth that he and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge were going to have. So I don't really necessarily know that there's much more that you can do. Certainly there's going to be defections, there's going to be retirements, there's issues within the team itself. And they'll have to replace guys like Devin McCourty most likely and Matthew Slater, which are not going to be easy. Those guys have been foundational players for this franchise since the day that they got there. And I would say that, that's where you start. Who is the next group of players that is going to take up the mantle from this latest group and the guys that are going to be retired. So that's going to be really hard for them to replace guys like that.
If you're Bill Belichick, though, and you know that your quarterback's frustrated and you can attribute that to the offensive coordinator and that whole situation, is it enough to bring in a legit OC, get rid of Patricia to kind of mend that relationship? Because it seems like Bill and Mac have been on different pages throughout the season.
Well, it seems like they have all been on different pages, and I don't know if Bill will attribute it to, Matt never calling plays and, maybe he started calling plays better down the, stretch here. Maybe he started to understand his quarterback more. I'm not really sure about that because I'm not in those meetings. But I will say there'll be an awful lot of pressure, I'm sure, from Robert Kraft and the front office, to try to fix, Mac Jones and make sure they get the most out of him. The one thing about Mac, he's extremely competitive. He's very bright. And he's probably a better athlete than most of us give him credit for. So, I think that they believe that internally that they have the right guy. It's just a question of getting, the right relationship going with the quarterback. I think he had that with Josh McDaniels. Now the question is there somebody out there that he can have a better relationship with? It's interesting, and these relationship things are really, really important. The last two games for the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson, while they didn't mean anything, Jerry Rosburg, their interim head coach, had changed the way that they called games and changed their coaching philosophy on the sideline and in practice during the week. And lo and behold, they had their two best games of the year. So these relationship things are important for quarterbacks and offensive coordinators, and that's probably the biggest thing that Bill's going to have to decide.
Is there any chance in your mind that Bill coaches anywhere else?
No, I don't see it unless, again, now this is this is the NFL. These 32 owners are hyper competitive. Bill's got, so much going on up there and so many things that have been a part of what he is. Unless he feels like he's exhausted everything, I would imagine, then he would retire, I would think. But I don't see him going anywhere soon. You got to remember, his sons work for him. This has been the success that he's been used to over the last 2 years. But, this isn't also a team that is devoid of talent or like one of the worst teams in the league like Chicago and Houston and, the Colts right now. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like they're on the cusp of getting better and their young quarterback's going to get better.
Speaking of coaches, is there any more of a millennial move than Sean McVay walking away because things are getting tough, Boomer?
I'm glad you said that, Greg, because we talked about this yesterday on the NFL Today, and it was like, you got to be kidding me. Spend all this money to go win a Super Bowl. You win a Super Bowl with basically an all-star roster, and then you walk away because you need time because it's been so hard. My God, every team could say the same thing. It's not easy. The NFL is not an easy place. And it would surprise me if Sean McVay actually walks away and goes into TV. They gave him his first opportunity as a head coach. They gave him all the resources he needed. They went out and got him another quarterback. That quarterback turned out to be hurt this year, unfortunately for him. They won the Super Bowl last year. You're exactly right, Greg, describing it the way that you just described it. It has such a bad taste attached to it, and I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he stays, and I hope he tries to fix this thing with Les Snead out there and Stan Kroenke.
You and Courtney know TV is not easy. You got hours in the makeup chair.
It's not right. I break out every now and again.
Yeah,
too,
it's awful.
Yes.
You guys wouldn't have been saying this whole millennial thing though. After he wins a Super Bowl and he's offered a boatload of money to go do TV, and he steps away.
Are you sticking up for him?
Kind of. It's kind.
Come on.
For me, if I'm Sean McVay, you've got your whole life ahead of you. I'm sure you're looking at a TV deal. You're like, why do I want to deal with the media in this case every single week, every single day? You know what? I'm going to take it and go.
Well, I work with a guy by the name of Bill Cowher who did take it and go after he won a Super Bowl, but he didn't leave the cupboard bare. When Mike Tomlin took over, he had Ben Roethlisberger. He had a good team. He had a culture that was reset, from the early days of Chuck Noll, and it's exactly doing what he did, and he did walk away. And I understand that, Coach Cowher has been offered many times to go back to work, and he's always turned those times down because, he lost his wife, of course, to melanoma, but he started a new life, and his new life, he finds to be a lot less stressful. He's got grandchildren and all that other stuff. Sean McVay is right in the middle of his wheelhouse when it comes to coaches, and he's highly respected in this league, and I think if he steps away for a couple of years, it'd be interesting if he tries to pull Sean Payton and to come back and get total control. And by the way, the Sean Payton thing is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the guy that's really running that behind the scenes is our man, Bill Parcells. Yeah. He's telling everybody what, you want Sean McVay? Here's how much. Here's the control you got to give him. Here's what's going on. And we'll see which desperate owner steps up to try to get Sean McVay in their building. By the way, if there is a GM in place right now at one of those organizations, they may be signing their death wish in the sense that if Sean Payton comes in, that GM might end up getting fired.
Where do you guess Tom Brady ends up next season, Boomer?
That's a good question. Isn't that that's kind of frothy? I don't know. Could it be Vegas? Could it be San Francisco? Although Brock Purdy looks like he's pretty good. Man, I don't know. So many things change, and it's going to be another carousel because there are a lot of quarterbacks out there that are going to be looking for work. Looks like there's probably going to be 3 or 4 quarterbacks drafted in the first round this year. So hopefully this offseason is as combustible as last offseason was, because that's part of the fun of covering the NFL.
When you look at the playoffs, who's your biggest dark horse?
With the injuries that happened yesterday, like Mike Williams got hurt for the for the Chargers. And then you got Alex Cappa, one of the best offensive linemen for the Bengals, went down yesterday. These injuries are devastating for the teams. If I had to, well, it's not a dark horse. I'm still going to ride San Francisco all the way to the Super Bowl on the NFC side. It's going to be really hard to knock out Patrick Mahomes. It really is. And the only scenario that is now left is if Buffalo and Kansas City do meet in the AFC Championship game. It will be at a neutral site. And I'm thinking it's going to be Atlanta, but they have not announced that yet.
All right, question of the week, and the last one for this season for Boomer, brought to you by McFarland Energy, the always reliable HVAC and home oil delivery pros at McFarlandEnergy.com. Which player, Boomer, has the most pressure on him this postseason?
Well, I'm going to say Dak Prescott. It just feels like, the way they lost yesterday to Washington, it's the Cowboys. There's always questions surrounding that team. They got bombastic owner, a coach just sitting there wondering whether or not he's going to be replaced by Sean Payton. So I think it's the Cowboys. I think it's Dak Prescott. And if they are a one-and-done team, which they could be because they have to play at Tampa Bay in round one, it's going to be really interesting to see how Jerry Jones reacts.
All right, Boomer, it's been great. Thanks for getting up early and being out. It's sad.
Yeah.
We'll do it again next year.
Yeah, it is kind of sad, guys. I feel bad. Maybe I'll talk to you around the Super Bowl. Who knows?
Ooh.
All right. We would love it. And thanks, Boomer.
And I'll do that for free.
It'll cost something, believe me. I know it. It'll cost us something down there. It's down the line somewhere.
All right, we'll see you guys. Have a great 2023. Talk to you next fall.
Thanks, Boomer.